The question banks in Moodle have a lot of great features that can allow you to ensure the security and integrity of your exams. To access the question bank, use the left administration bar on your Moodle shell. If you click question banks, you'll be given four options: questions, categories, import, and export. Export allows you to export a question bank to another course or to another instructor. Import allows you to import the questions from a question bank into Moodle from another course, another instructor, or through other means. Categories allows you to set up and organize your quizzes into a better way to find them later on. You can categorize them by chapters or by topic. As you can see here in the drop-down menu, I've categorized my quiz by chapter and by topic underneath that, using subcategories. The questions allow you to actually add questions to each category that you've set up ahead of time. So the page we are on now is the Questions tab. Using the drop-down, you can see all the categories that I've set up using the Categories tab. For each chapter, I've made subcategories as well. And I've also made non-chapter based categories, such as cumulative content. Cumulative content allows me to provide information to my students through quizzes of information that isn't in a prior quiz, but allows them to see it in a future quiz in order to be repetitive with my quizzing methods, to keep them on their toes. For my final exam, and this is the exam we're going to show you in a minute, I have 62 questions, as you can see in parentheses, that are in a general final exam category. Those quiz questions are not in the subcategories. The subcategories, I have math with extra water, and those are the same math equation. I have two of them. They're the same math equation with different numbers inputted. Therefore, to provide integrity to my exams while the students take it, they all get the same question, the same level, not easier or harder than the other, but the numbers being different between the two questions allow the students to not have the same question, therefore the same answer, and allows them to not be able to cheat. The same thing goes for math index. Another math question, same thing. I have two questions, and you can add as many as you want in. For each of these math questions, I followed that trend. For other categories, such as artery identification, I have 11 questions. Those are the same model, but I have the students labeling different arteries within the body that are all on the same diagram, just each question asks for a different line's answer. Under artery identification, I have another subcategory. I have full body. I have images of the full anatomical body as opposed to artery identification, which is just of an arm or a leg. In other ones, I have different questions. So at random, they're all the same category. They all would come from the same chart within a book, for example. But it asks different questions from that chart. Each student gets a different question. No question is easier or harder than the others, but again, allows for more integrity and prevention of cheating. When setting up the quiz later, which is another video that we'll create, you can choose to have these students see the questions in multiple different ways. One, you can choose out of the 62 questions for them to see all 62 questions from the general category. Or I can have them see 50. Therefore, any given student is not going to have the same questions of the other students. And then for a category where you add the same question, but in different ways, you just add one of those questions. The student only sees one at random from that subcategory. from a question bank such as gas or drain tubes, where I have multiple but they're not the same question, I can have a student see 1, 2, 4, 10 questions from that question bank. As long as you have enough questions in that bank, it will allow it. And each student will get a mixture of questions, but they're not the same order or different combination than the other students. Looking under each question bank, you'll see that we have different questions. So as we go underneath in this category, I don't have any questions under math ounces 1. So when we create a question, we have the same options that we would in any quiz that you create. We can add multiple choice, true and false, short answer, numerical. We can have essay questions. So they all act a little different. Multiple choice is pretty straightforward, and so is true and false. A short answer is a short answer. It's 1 or 2 words. Numerical is a short answer question essentially, but asking for a number, not a word. Calculated, you provide a formula, and it is provided by the quiz that it is calculated out, and it has to be a number. Essay allows for a lot more space for the student to write. Matching is side-by-side matching. Random short answer matching utilizes short answers and creates matching questions for you. You input numerous short answer questions into the question bank, and then it pulls from that in order to provide the short answer matching. Embedded answers is a sentence with missing questions, almost like with drop-down menus that allow you to select those. We have other calculated options, multiple choice or simple. You can drag and drop something onto text or drag and drop something with markers. You have a syringe and you want to see how many cc's should be added to the syringe. You can drag and drop an arrow to that part of the syringe to indicate that that's where the marker belongs. You can have numerous markers per item as well. This works great with a diagram where you can drag and drop text onto an anatomical body and show where that belongs. Same thing with drag and drop onto an image. Now, once you've added questions, we can see that under our category, we would have all our questions show up as such. You can edit them by hitting the widget. You can duplicate them if you want to have a similar question and rechange the wording. Or you can preview them and see how they look. So let's preview this first one. So when we preview the first one, it shows us a different view than the students would see. It gives us these menu options below. The student would see up to this part. And on this, they have drop-down menus, as this is a matching question, and all the matching options are available. You can have more choices than there are questions. This allows for more integrity and prevents people from using process of elimination too much. Now, when we're looking at how to set up our quiz, we would go to our main dashboard for our question. Go down, and when we turn our editing on, it provides us the ability to add an activity or a resource. When we click that, we now have the option to add anything we want. And under those options of the various activities, we have quizzes. There's a second quiz option that is an adaptive quiz. An adaptive quiz is much more involved. And if you do have questions about this, do feel free to reach out to me and we can go over that. That's a very invasive quiz that is a great option, but does include a lot of work. A simple quiz, which is what most of you are looking for, is this option with the check mark on the page. Once you add that, you will have the option to add questions to that as well. So once we add that quiz in. We can name our quiz, we can provide a description, but it doesn't allow us to add the questions there. So I'm just going to add a test quiz. That test quiz, once I save, allows me to now edit it. So once I click that quiz, I can edit the settings, which brings us back to the page we're on, edit the quiz, which brings us to adding the actual quiz questions, or you can find it on the left side as well. Once the quiz has been produced, this does not exist, but this one on the left side will still be there. At this point, we can add questions in the same way that we normally would, but we have two options. One, you can add a new question and add them directly into that quiz. But those questions are now only in that quiz, and they are not in the general question box, quiz bank in order for you to use in other quizzes or for you to put at random. So we can choose from question bank, and we can choose the exact questions. I want this question and I want that question. And that's how that works. What we're going to choose is a random question. This is a great feature. And this random question feature allows us to have a little bit more control. So I'm going to use the final exam like I explained earlier. And when I'm going to click that, I have 62 questions to choose from under this category. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a few at random. So out of those 62 questions, I only want 30 of them. That means 32 questions are not going to be seen from that question bank by any given student. The students have chances that two different students could have completely different questions because there's enough questions for that to occur. Majority of students will have one or two questions as someone else will. So we're going to choose 30 questions at random from that section. You can see these questions are spaced out. So that means that each one of them is going to be on a different page. If I click that little area between and I bring those two together, question 1 and question 2 are going to be on the same page. Now by clicking this, 3 and 4 are going to be on the same page. But the rest of these are going to have their own page. Now this allows you to group categories. So let's say, let me add another question. Oops, we're going to go to the bottom and show you down there so we can see the whole question. So we're going to add from a question bank. And I'm going to say I want, from this math category, I want this one and I want that one. I want to make sure that they get them. And I'm going to add those questions. So those are at the bottom. And you can see that they show differently. So these are random from the final exam, and these are math 2 and not math 5. So I want to group these together. That's going to allow us to ensure that the two math questions are on the same page. Maybe they play off each other. Maybe one is the further solution to the first one's math problem that has the whole solution worked out, and it requires that second one needs to be part of that. That's to prevent duplication. So that's why I want to group them. But the rest of these, I want them separate. And that prevents them from going back and forth. And in the settings, you can play with a few features that prevent students from going back and forth by requiring them to move in one direction. This prevents them from changing their answer. I like that feature. Keeps them moving in one direction. Or you can allow them to go back and forth and see the entire exam. That's up to you. Now, the other thing you can do is, again, we added random from the final exam. We can also add random from anything else. So let's say I'm going to go from full body, and I'm going to be nice. I'll only give them 2 questions from the full body. And then that's going to add to the end as well. So now we can also drag and drop these questions wherever we want them. And you can click these to separate them. Or if we just one click, it makes it a lot easier, especially in a larger exam. to move around. So it just basically now I can click and say I want that question after page 3, and it's going to move it up here. Makes it a lot easier to move.